Let's do a show. Let's do a show right now. What are we doing?
Can't you see? Everyone, they're here already. You're next.
Let's go.
Welcome to the future, where the glass is half full and you'll need new glasses, where you'll be jumping from conclusions.
The past is annulled, and a new future is born.
Never before in history has so much meant so little to so many. AD on the radio.
So, you know, a lot of people ask me how it was I became a fan of the New York Mets. If you follow me on any form of social media, you've noticed that essentially I'm very preoccupied with what they do. Why? Baseball season makes me happy. The Mets make me happy. And it kind of goes back to being a kid. People are like, how did you grow up in England and develop such an affinity for an American sport? Well, I mean, I grew up playing baseball. We had baseball in my school. But I think the real thing was that my dad played baseball growing up. My dad loves baseball. He was like the star pitcher on his high school baseball team. And so my dad, who was away an awful lot for work, one of the ways we bonded when he was back was playing catch in the backyard. That was my time. That was my bond with my dad, playing catch. Loved it. So, kid from New York, 6 years old, living in England. When the 86 World Series rolls around, I get to stay up late and watch it with my dad because that's our bond. That's baseball. And I feel like I'm so cool because there I am, long after I usually go to bed, watching the ball game with my pops. But not only that, barring last year, which was just unfreaking believable with the Chicago Cubs, but barring last year, and up until last year, the 86 World Series was arguably the greatest World Series of all time ever. It had everything. All the drama, all the excitement, all the amazing plays, all the critical errors that cost Boston what it cost them. It was, without a shadow of a doubt, one for the history book. So the victory was crazy. And all I knew, I still get goosebumps talking about it. All I knew was that my dad had allowed me to stay up late. And we were vaguely from New York. That's what I knew. I knew we were from New York. And a New York team, even though my dad's a Yankees fan to this day, a New York team won the World Series. And it was the greatest thing that ever happened to me in my life up till that point. Like I said, I still get chills. I still get goosebumps talking about it. And so I suppose for me, that relationship that I have to baseball and the Mets goes a little bit deeper than a fan, is a little bit different than a straight up standard fan. It's a very big sort of emotional anchor there for me, I suppose. And for that reason, I never participate in any of the negativity that goes around baseball. I just like baseball to be a happy thing for me. You know, someone said to me once, you're kind of like, you're on the radio. Your company carries the Mets baseball games. You might be able to, meet some of the players one day. And no, I don't want that. I don't want to be in a texting relationship with Addison Reed. I don't want to have dinner with Noah Syndergaard. I would like to, oh my gosh, as a fellow broadcaster, to be able to sit down with the Mets broadcasting team, Keith, Gary, and Ron. Oh my gosh, now that would be something. But in terms of getting close to the actual game and seeing how it's played that season and being in a personal situation with the team, no. See, because when you get into music radio, the way I have, you do it because you love music more than anything else in the world. You're essentially a professional music fan. You have more passion for music and more knowledge for music than all the rest of your friends. And people, for whatever reason, like being around that kind of passion and knowledge. And for that reason, somebody offers you a job being on the air talking about radio. And it's magical. But getting close to it, being annoyed when singers for rock bands are running late and eating into your day and inconveniencing you for an interview. Guys that you were like, just a few short years ago, you were like, maybe one day I'll get to stand in the same room as this person. Now you're annoyed that they're late. And it kind of sucks some of the magic out of it. So I never want to get so close to baseball. Never want that kind of access to baseball where I lose any of the magic and any of the sparkle to it because it's so special to me. And for that reason, I don't participate in any kind of negativity. And New York Mets fans, as I write this, I think we're down 0-6 in a preseason game. And people are already calling for the head of Terry Collins, the Mets manager. And I don't bother myself with that. I stay positive and I enjoy what there is to enjoy. I'm sad about the things when I'm going to be sad, but really I want my relationship with baseball to be a positive thing. So I never engage in the negativity, but I'm always curious as to where it comes from. And the negativity towards someone who is leading a team never precludes any kind of sports fan from being happy when they win. Which is why what happened last night was a bit of a head scratcher to me.
Where the left and right come together for fundamental truths. AD on the radio, on Twitter at ADSXE.
People are starting to ask if Milhouse, the Mets rally puppy, is ready for the 2017 Mets season. He is. We are both ready and waiting. Because I've lived in towns where there are exactly 0 Mets fans for the last 10 or so years between places like Houston and San Diego, my relationship with Mets fans comes mostly from Twitter. Like, I'll never forget, in the 2015 World Series, night guy at one of the stations I was working for was just like, hey, you want me to come over and watch a World Series with you? I'll cheer with you for your Mets. And I was like, no, I don't want you in my house. And he was like, that's a little harsh. I was like, don't take it personally. I really like you. Maybe you can come over some other time. But if I have you over to cheer for my team, when I know in your heart you like the San Francisco Giants because that's where you're from, well then, you're just going to be distracted. I'm going to be hyper-focused on the game, and you're going to be going to the fridge, getting more food, asking where the hot sauce is. You're going to be looking at the curtains, going, where'd you get those? You're going to be doing things like that. You're going to be a distraction. So I would rather sit there with my phone in hand, cheering via Twitter with Mets fans around the world. And big part of what we've sort of like established in this sporting community is rally animals. People have rally cats. I have Milhouse the Mets rally puppy, who's become a bit of a thing on Twitter to the point where people ask before big games if Milhouse the Mets rally puppy is rested up. And people rely on seeing Milhouse watching the game with me. It's a superstition, but you know what? It's one that I'm happy to have. It makes absolutely no sense, but I will willingly participate because it combines some of the two things that it combines my two greatest loves, dogs and baseball. So, bearing that in mind, I love doing that. Anything that is uplifting and cool and fun that we can all share together, us Mets fans, long-suffering Mets fans, who are kind of finally starting to feel as though over the last few years we might be in good shape, and we might be in good shape for a little while. Don't want to jinx anything. I'm knocking on wood, but I like anything positive and uplifting that allows us to share in the joy of being a Mets fan. It's the greatest. And if you're a Mets fan, you know, and if you have your own team, you probably know a thing about that too. But I never participate in any of the negativity. And a guy that is responsible or a guy that is the subject of a lot of negativity, like Mets fans will turn on players and management and all of the above super quick. Terry Collins, the Mets manager. And believe me, when he made the decision to leave Matt Harvey in, when he was initially going to take him out, and Harvey was like, I got more gas in the tank, and that essentially lost us the World Series. Tough call. And I joined the chorus of like, oh no, what were you thinking? But it's amazing to me how quickly fans of any organization, really, any sporting organization, can be so quick to tear down people in it. And, like, you look at Terry Collins. This is a guy that got us to the World Series. This is a guy that got us to the wild card game last year when we were essentially a team that was patched together out of spare parts. Everyone was injured, and we still got so much further than anyone was expecting. So, did he do a couple of questionable things that made me go, what the? Okay, all right. Yeah. But did I participate in the piling on and maligning him? No. Why? First and foremost, I don't like to allow negativity to enter into my experience of baseball. That's my happy place. I don't need to feel down about it aside than when we win. I don't participate in the negativity. I love the Mets. I love them when they win. I love the Mets when they lose. I love the Mets. And that's enough for me. But what is always perturbing to me, well, what was perturbing to me last night was this. Well, let me finish off the Mets analogy first. Sorry, I've got baseball on the brain. But when we got to the World Series, there were people that couldn't stand Terry Collins. But they were still happy that we got to the World Series. When we got to the wild card game, there had been people that had been screaming for Terry Collins' head for the entirety of the season, 2 straight seasons, 3 straight seasons. And they were still happy we got to the wild card game. Disagreeing with the guy in charge, not liking the guy in charge, feeling like somebody else should have been in charge. It should be Wally Backman. That's who should be managing the Mets. Now he's not even in the organization. Oh, we're all going to hell in a handbasket. Terry Collins. Well, we made it to the World Series. Well, obviously, the World Series, Mets World Series, that's the greatest thing ever. Do you see what I'm getting at here? Do you see the comparison I'm drawing? And I'm sorry if it's a little Mets specific because I have a certain amount of passion for it, but it's the thing that I relate to the most in this situation. As much as they can't stand the guy, they're stoked that we got to where we were going. And I find it hard to believe that we in this country can't do the same thing with regard to where our country is going and getting there. Look, last night during the joint session, which was essentially a State of the Union address, that's what it was. The Democrats audibly groaned after Trump introduced new immigration crime offices. What are they going to call it? Voice. A lot of people are saying that's Trump's Gestapo. But there were certain things that were talked about last night that it shocked me. People couldn't find it in their heart to be happy for. And we'll get into that next.
Your destination for stimulation. KPRC, more stimulating talk radio.
Don't get the blues, get all the news. We mean all of you guys out there in Radio Land. All aboard!
He's back. AD on the radio.
Give it up, yeah. Give it up, yeah. Bring this on. Come on.
So, bear in mind as we launch into this, not necessarily a fan of Trump. I don't think I've ever been a fan of any politician ever. But if you're a Trump person and you're all bent out of shape that I'm not a Trump fan, don't feel singled out. I can't think of a single instance in my life where I've looked at a politician, seen them saying what they had to say, seen them running for an elected office and gone, this is the person, this is the guy or girl that I 100% believe in. I will vote for them and I'm going to feel great about it because I trust them and I think they've got the best interests of me and my fellow Americans at heart. I've never had that feeling. And if you've had that feeling, part of me would call you naive, but maybe that's out of jealousy because it seems like a wonderful, warming, comforting security blanket, even if it is of ignorance, to feel. So I'm not a fan. I'm skeptical. And I believe in holding politicians, no matter who they are, no matter who voted for them, no matter what side of the political fence they fall on. I believe in holding them accountable. I believe in calling them on promises they make and don't keep. I believe in holding them to a higher standard. Why? Because they're our employees. We pay for them. I want to see where my money's going, and I want to know that it's being spent well. I work really hard for every single last cent that I make, and so do you. And for that reason, if you're going to come and take a third or a half of it or whatever the hell it is, whatever ridiculous tax rate you're being subjected to where you live, you want to know that that money is at least being well spent, and the people that are living off of it are doing the jobs that they should. So I believe in holding every single politician accountable no matter what. So, like I said, not a Trump fan. But I was less of a fan of how some folks responded. Like I said, it's crazy. Crazy to me that even though Mets fans can hate their manager, Terry Collins, they're stoked when we get to the World Series. Even if you hate whoever's in charge, even if you hated Obama, even if you hate Trump, if something good happens, don't allow that to stop you from participating in the enjoyment of it. Democrats didn't really stand up to applaud some issues they're purported to be all about. Trump spoke about supporting historically black colleges. Trump spoke about, and you know what? This blew my mind. Trump spoke about doing something with regard to underserved inner city communities, specifically African American communities. And the left basically went, If that had come from Barack Obama, two things would have happened. One, the Dems would have been on their feet, screaming and yelling, cheering for all they're worth. Two, Sarah Palin would have come out of the woodwork and being, could you please stop playing the race card, don't you know? Neither of those things happened. And I think it's amazing. Look, we live in a country where you are probably not racist. I love to think that you're not racist. I know you're not racist. You can't be racist and listen to this show for any length of time. If you're a new listener, who the hell knows who you are? But if you've been with us for any length of time, you're not racist. You're not prejudiced. You genuinely believe in the core of your being that equality is so unbelievably important. I can't believe that all of us couldn't be happy. And people will say, it's just words, it's just rhetoric, it means nothing, it's a smokescreen, he's doing something else while he's talking about this. I get that. But to have a world leader stand up and say, there's a problem with underserved African American communities in this country, and we are going to do something about it, and not be like, right on. It's the weirdest thing to me. Because you might not be racist, I might not be racist, but the experience of someone that is not white, I've come to learn, and believe me, I won the genetic lottery. I'm a white male in America. That seems like the way to go. I've for a brief second, glimpsed what it would be like to not be that, and it's not as wow. Being a white male in America, that's good times. I mean, obviously, there's challenges and there's times where things aren't going to shake out in a fair manner, but it's tough not being white in America. There's challenges that I don't understand, can't relate to, but I've seen them happen, and I can't believe it. I can't fathom it. I go, that still goes on? That still goes on is a conversation that I've had with some black friends of mine. When I've seen it in action, when somebody is deliberately and purposefully racist to them to their face, I look at them and go, that still goes on? I thought Abraham Lincoln did away with that. And they go, oh man, no, not even a little bit. That still goes on is a question that I've asked many black friends when I've seen people deal with them differently because of their color of their skin, usually in a derisive manner. So while you might not be racist, I might not be racist, and many people in charge might not be racist, the playing field is far from level in America and in the world. And to have a president stand up and say, we're going to do something about our underserved African American communities. We're going to do something to support historically black colleges. We're going to do something about getting more jobs for women in the fields of science. There's going to be paid family leave for full-time workers. By the way, not traditional Republican policies. Not laissez-faire capitalism. It's funny, a buddy of mine said the day before the election, Clay, who we've talked about on the show, we played his music on the show. Last night we were talking about the speech, and he was like, yeah, these things are not traditional conservative policies. I said it right before the election happened. Either way, we're getting a New York liberal. I mean, Trump was a Democrat till about a second and a half before he decided to start running. But whatever the case may be, these things, and look, maybe you don't believe in paid family leave. Maybe that goes against the grain of what you believe in terms of it being a laissez-faire capitalist society and only the strong shall win. And, you know, why would that be fair? Why would that be fair to people that don't have kids? And yes, there is a whole big ball of wax there. But these are things that people on the left have campaigned for years, have screamed and shouted about. And because they don't like the source, they don't like the mouth that it came out of, it stops them from it being a victory. It stops them from celebrating it as a victory. Now, it would be like getting to the World Series and not liking the fact that we were in the World Series because you don't care for the manager of the team. That's not... If someone says, hey, you know that thing that you've been banging on about for decades now? These really important issues of race, and for years and years and years, people on the other side of the fence have said, what are you talking about? There's no racism. What do you mean underserved black communities? Hey, it's down to the individual in this country to pull themselves up by their bootstraps and do something. And you're going, no, you don't understand. There's institutionalized prejudice in this country, and it's not fair. The playing field is not level. We need to do more for African-American colleges. We need to do more for underserved African-American communities. We need to do more to get jobs for women in science. They should not be denied careers in technical fields because of their gender. And you've been having this argument for 10 years, 20 years, for the history of this country. You've been having this argument saying, this is not fair. This is not right. We need more. Something has to be done. And then all of a sudden, the person that you've been arguing for the past, the person that you've been arguing with for years and years and years and years, feeling as though your argument is falling on deaf ears, shows up and goes, you know what? You're right. We're going to do something about this. Yes. You know, I agree. Whew. Yeah, we should do something about the underserved African-American communities. Women should not be denied jobs in technical fields because of their gender. Education is so important. Education is the cure-all for what hurts America. And you know what? Historically, black colleges shouldn't be left out of the improvements that we want to make in education. We've been arguing about this for years, but I've seen the light, and you are right. And then there's so much leftover fight or flight adrenaline from the argument that's been going since the dawn of American history that the side that's been arguing finally gets an agreement, gets closer to getting their way. And they go, as opposed to going, oh my gosh, we've been fighting for this for my entire life. We've been fighting for this. Our parents have been fighting for this. And we just got a major victory. We got one step closer. We got the leader of the free world to say, we should really do something about this. You're right. And you're not celebrating because you're so ingrained. We're so entrenched in this fight where everything that comes out of the opposition's mouth must be wrong. We're missing the big picture. People are missing the big picture and not able to celebrate victory when they see it in their face, slapping them, going, hey, you win, you won, be happy, you won something. This is good. This is not all the way there. We've got a long way to go. But you know what? This is progress. Blows my ever-loving mind that people can't celebrate this. Yeah. So I guess what I'm trying to tell you, and look, this is going to happen on the left and the right. The left is not alone in this. Oh my gosh. Trump said something last night that had people I know that were longtime Trump supporters up in arms. What did he say about defeating ISIS? Do you remember what he said about defeating ISIS? If you didn't see it, or if you don't remember what he said about defeating ISIS, he said we were going to work with Muslims and the Muslim community in defeating ISIS. My dad spent a good portion of the last 10 years in Kosovo, where most people are an Eastern European version of Muslim. My dad calls it Muslim light. And he was like, you think it's tough for Christians and Americans. These are folks that are now, because things are getting ISIS-y up in here, that live in fear of being beheaded because they're not willing to take part in the beheading. Does that make sense? Large portions of the Muslim community, the vast majority of the Muslim community, has way more reason to be afraid of ISIS than we do. And I'm not saying we shouldn't be in a position to where we can destroy the threat that is ISIS. But the threat is significantly more real when it's up on your doorstep, threatening to kill you if you don't join their movement openly, not having to rely on subterfuge and Twitter conversations for recruitment, where you can just walk up to someone's house and be like, I got a gun, you're going to join the fight or I'm going to kill you. Now go kill this person. And when Trump said we're going to work with the Muslim community, that we have to come together, Republicans and Democrats, people of all faiths, and defeat ISIS. Long-term Trump supporters I know were like, what the hell did he just say? I was like, he said we got to defeat ISIS. We're going to enlist the help of the Muslim community to do it. I mean, Muslims are equally, if not more, under attack than us because, they're being forced to join a movement at gunpoint. So we're going to work with them. They've got an axe to grind too. There's a lot of them. And, look, obviously there's questions about radicalization and all that. But just, Trump said we're going to work with Muslims to destroy ISIS. And people were like, people I know that were long-term Trump supporters were like, oh, no, that's it. He smoked it. That's like trying to say you're going to enlist the help of cigarettes to stomp out cancer. No. Oh, no, you didn't, Trump. People are so dug in. People are so, look, part of what got them dug in is a political process, the one that won Trump the election. But people are so dug in. People are so divided that they can't see sometimes how much there is that is worth being happy about, how much there is that is worth celebrating, how much there is that should give you hope for tomorrow for all of us in America.
Is that really necessary? I don't think so. 1, 2, 3, and she shouts to me with the blinged out style, fake can, silicone for a mile. But hey, I ain't impressed with this. She makes the dirty.com or maybe once or twice a guest list.
Real radio.
104.1. Now, more AD on the radio.
As much as people are so dug in about everything, unwilling to see the silver lining to a cloud when it's staring them right in the face, unwilling to celebrate the fact that we have a world leader that went, hey, and look, I understand. I get if you treat statements from politicians, any politician, Trump, Obama, whoever, with suspicion. If you say, well, he just said that, he didn't mean that. He didn't actually mean we're going to do something about making sure that women were allowed to get had better opportunities to become employed in fields of science and technology and shouldn't be excluded from that because of their gender. He didn't mean that. He didn't mean he was actually going to do anything about serving underserved African-American communities in inner cities. He didn't mean any of that. I mean, like, he's just saying it's just words. It means nothing. Like, I get that. That's the skepticism with which I treat the words that come out of any politician's mouth at any time ever. But if you can't just get a little stoked about that, it boggles my mind. You're denying yourself some happy. And Lord knows we could all use a little every now and then. There's a giant question mark hanging over all of our futures. So I believe in celebrating what there is to be celebrated. And one guy that, well, I don't know if I'd call it eating crow. I would call it embracing reality. One guy that ate crow / embraced reality with regard to Trump's speech last night was Van Jones from CNN. This is a guy who I'm sure you know has been a long time and very, very vocal critic of Donald Trump. But he got all emotional. He was very impressed by the way Trump handled one part of the speech. And again, a lot of people say this is absolute hypocrisy. A lot of people say that this is pandering and this is horrible and this is cashing in on someone that has experienced a huge tragedy and it was lowest form of all that. I get it. I understand. I'm aware of that side of the argument, and that's not the point. The point is that Van Jones, long-term and extraordinarily vocal critic of Donald Trump, was able to kind of go, that was a big deal. That was a big moment. That was something that made people feel good. Wow, he did that. Okay. Jones said that Trump's tribute to Navy SEAL Ryan Owens, who died in a raid in Yemen, was one of the most, and I quote, one of the most extraordinary moments you have ever seen in American politics, period. And he said that it was a moment that Trump became president of the United States. He also said that it's the type of thing that could make Trump a 2-term president. He said there are a lot of people who have a lot of reason to be frustrated with him, to be fearful of him. But that was one of the most extraordinary moments you have ever seen in American politics. He did something extraordinary. And for people who have been hoping that he would become unifying in the hope that he might find some way to become presidential, they should be happy with that moment. For people who have been hoping that maybe he would remain a divisive cartoon, which he often finds a way to do, they should begin to become a little bit worried tonight, because that thing you just saw him do, if he finds a way to do that over and over again, he's going to be there for 8 years. Now, there was a lot that he said in that speech that was counterfactual, that was not right, that I oppose and I will oppose. But he did something tonight that you cannot take away from him. He became president of the United States. So there you go. And there's people that are going to say, that's just Van Jones trying to weasel his way into a different portion of his career. That's him being just as hypocritical as politicians are. That's him being just an absolute jackass. That's him pandering. That's him making an attention grab. But you know what? I like it because, hey, there's a lot going on that we don't agree about. There's a lot going on where we're divided. There's a lot going on where we're angry and we have every right to be. There's a lot going on. We are nervous. We are concerned. We have anxiety in the pit of our stomach over what the next 4 to 8 years may hold. There's a lot going on that should bother us. But when we get a little sliver of, that was all right, cool, we should take that when we can get it. And that's what Van Jones is doing, I think. All right, Funkhauser. What are you doing? What's going on in the news? I noticed that we are without a lesbian roommate today. She was supposed to be a guest on the show. What happened?
Well, she was out late last night. Kept me out late, too, with a random stranger at 3 a.m. leaving.
Wait, she kept you up or she kept you out?
Well, I kept getting woken up.
Wait, hold. So you were asleep, random lesbian encounter in your house? Like, hear it through the walls lesbian encounter? Or were they just, talking, laughing,
I heard a lot of
time?
Drake through the walls.
Oh, you did? Interesting. So I'm just going to bottom line this. Do you think they had lesbian sex in the room next door?
I don't know. I can't comment. Who am I to know that? I have no idea what's going on. Unless that hotline bling means something. Drake to cover the sounds of lesbian sex. I would have gone with a different record. I don't know why. I can't get into Drake. Do you like the music of Drake? Everybody loves him. Everybody thinks he's the greatest thing in the world. To me, he is the least gangster rapper of all time. Like, this is a guy who came up from the mean streets of Degrassi. When he says, we started at the bottom, now we're here, the bottom that he started at was like a child actor that got paid like $30,000 an episode.
it's a different bottom from the one that many people I know have started from and are still trying to get out of. Like, all right. I guess, he did something before he was a child actor, but he was making significantly more bank than the rest of us at a very early age. When people say the struggle is real, I have a hard time applying the idea of struggle, at least in terms of career, to get where you are as a rapper or entertainer of any sort with somebody that started off that way. There you go.
You ain't got to hate.
I ain't hating. I just ain't agreeing with the integrity of one's lyrics when you claim to have come
Maybe
from
it's
nothing.
a lesbian thing.
Maybe, that's the thing. I was like, I wonder. And yeah. So she kept you up. Did you see the company that she brought over?
Did I see, I didn't see her face. No, I was woken up at about 3:30 as she was leaving the house.
No kidding.
I saw pieces of her, I guess.
You're saying your lesbian roommate left her lesbian date in pieces? Very much looking forward to having her on the show. Perhaps we'll be able to do that tomorrow.
Shimmy, shimmy, ah, shimmy, shimmy, AD on your radio like every day. I'm totally all city champion from the north back to the south, and even your mama loves it when I open my mouth.
Real radio. 104.1.
There's something happening here, and you should know what it is.
The Dumbing Up of America. Now, more AD on the radio.
Alrighty then, Funkhauser, let's take a look at the events of today in our segment, My Witness News. And understand that Funkhauser had a long night last night. He was kept awake by 2 lesbians.
Yeah. So
In
I'm
the
going
other
to
room.
try to get through this. An international group of scientists says we should not try to resurrect extinct species.
I agree. I don't think there's any way to bring Democrats back to life at this stage in the game. And you know what's interesting? I say that obviously as a jest, as a joke, as a jape. Democrats are alive and well. Republicans are alive and well. But there was a time, it's amazing to me because there was a time where Hillary Clinton looked like she was going to take the election and people like the Republican Party is dead. It's done. Kaputski. Game over, man. Game over. And now not so much. And now people are saying Democrats are dead. The worm turns quickly and none of it really means anything, just to be crystal freaking clear. What else?
A new investigation shows that Subway's chicken only contains 50% chicken DNA.
So the chicken at Subway is only 50% chicken? I mean, you got to bear in mind, though, you're essentially eating that 50% chicken wrapped in an old yoga mat. So let's not start being all picky all of a sudden. And you know what's interesting? When I was a vegan, I remember right by the recording studio, there was this vegan/health store called Rising Tide. And everybody called it Rising Prices because you'd be like, 1 vegan sandwich, please. That'll be $16. That seems fair. But they had vegan turkey and vegan chicken. That was like, even now as a meat eater, when I've had some of that stuff, indistinguishable from actual cold cuts that you buy at the grocery store. Sort of like, not the greatest, pieces of turkey or chicken, but, that stuff that's all pressed together, and you're like, I guess this is some organic material in here. It says turkey, it must be turkey. It says chicken, it must be chicken. Like the vegan version of that I used to pay $16 a pop for in a sandwich from Rising Tide in New York. To this day, I have a hard time distinguishing it from the real thing. I guess the point being is the truthfulness. Like the Subway chicken's supposed to be like 50% soy. A lot of people like to avoid soy because soy has, especially for men, it does funny things to your hormone levels if you're eating tons and tons of it. So yeah, there's that 50% chicken DNA in the chicken that you are eating. What else?
President Trump addressed a joint session of Congress last night.
Yeah, he rated himself too. right before it, he gave himself an A for what he'd achieved and things of that nature. And when asked to give himself, what's an area you haven't done so well in, he said he gave himself a C for messaging. But I think in Donald Trump's world, a C stands for completely awesome. Go on.
The Trump administration will exercise greater enforcement of recreational marijuana laws.
Well, there goes Team America's odds in the X Games. You would think that someone the color of Cheetos would be sympathetic to those with the munchies. Although, have you noticed a subtle tune-up of Donald Trump's fake tan and hair? A lot of people are going like, what the hell? Did he actually have good hair there for a minute? Like his hair is famously bad and has been famously bad for 20 years, before there was even a whiff of him being a president. And probably previous to that, actually. People went, what the hell is going on top of your head? What is that? And it's been a sticking point. I mean, he went on Fallon and let Fallon touch his hair, let Fallon pull his hair just to make sure it was real. And so Donald Trump doesn't have a sense of humor with regard to people coming after him about pretty much anything. But for some reason, he does seem to have a sense of humor about the syrup, as we would say in England. You know why they call it the syrup? Funkhauser? It's Cockney rhyming slang. So, like, apples and pears means stairs. So you say, I can't find my phone. I must have left it up the apples. Meaning, I left it upstairs. Apples and pears, stairs.
Oh.
Well,
I still
figs
don't get
come
it.
with figs come with syrup, and you can get syrup from figs. It's called syrup of figs. And so when you're referring to someone's hair in England, syrup of figs, wigs. So, like, when you're talking about someone's hair, you're talking about their syrup.
Oh.
Interesting, right? Yeah. So, like, a friend of mine from England watched the speech. He's like, what's up with Trump's syrup? Looks better. I was like, I haven't heard that expression in a little while. I think there's been a subtle tune-up to the fake tan that he's been using, that he's a fan of. And I think there's been a subtle tune-up to what's going on top of his head. It looked all right. I'm watching it, and I'm just wondering, like, what is going on there? Perhaps he's using, as they call it, a system. I think Jason Alexander from Seinfeld, like, who'd been historically bald, but he got a little bit more bald, and he didn't want to be as bald as he'd been because he said he looked dorky. He started wearing a toupee, like, to make it look like he was still bald, but not as bald as he actually was. And I remember reading the article, and he said he referred to it as a system. Like a hair system. So I wonder if Donald Trump's been putting new systems in place, because I gotta say, the hair not as laugh worthy as it has been recently. What else?
California City passed a resolution impeaching Donald Trump.
The fact that it was written in Spanish might give us an idea as to the reason why. What else?
Well, BlackBerry unveiled a new smartphone.
Hell yeah! BlackBerry unveiled a new smartphone, replied the year 2002.
Does it have buttons?
It was, it's one of those things, man. BlackBerry's like Betamax. Like when people got Blackberries, remember what they were called? Crackberries, because they were so addictive. People couldn't imagine going a single moment without their BlackBerry. And people were just loyal to BlackBerry products, and BlackBerry got into a weird place because Blackberries were for early adopters. Like, you had to take a second mortgage on your home to get one of the early Blackberries. You had to leave it at your office overnight so it could spend like 24 hours syncing. Like, you remember that? People would spend like significant periods of time syncing their phones as opposed to pressing the sync button and allowing the internet to do the rest of the work.
I didn't have one, so I don't know what you're talking about.
I didn't either, but like I remember, like getting emails from my boss at the time, him being like, "If you're trying to reach me, just know I had to leave my BlackBerry at the office to sync for 24 hours, so you can reach me on my house phone." I was like, "Wow, this is quite a thing." And he was like, "I'm absolutely addicted to it. I need it. Must have it with me at all times." And like, people that were loyal to the BlackBerry liked the BlackBerry-esque features and didn't want it changed. And so when all these other phones came along that were a little bit more user-friendly, BlackBerry was still committed to their original and existing customer base and couldn't do anything about the fact that they wanted this thing that essentially felt like a paperweight from 15 years ago. So they're desperately trying to get back their market share. Like Betamax, they got there first, couldn't hold on to the lead. But yeah, BlackBerry has a new smartphone. Go on.
New study shows millennials have an increased risk of colorectal problems.
Oh man,
What is that?
Colorectal. That's your butt.
Oh,
I
thought you couldn't see
colon.
colors or something.
No, that's your lower lower digestive tract. Millennials have an increased risk of colorectal problems. What, are they sticking participation trophies up there? What the hell is going on? Why? What else?
Brothel owners say Tinder is really hurting their business.
I could understand that. I could understand yeah. I mean, I guess really if you are looking to find a willing participant, a brothel for financial and reasons of morality and self-respect has probably become a much more distant last resort. Like if you live up the road from a brothel and you are lonely and looking to get a little sweet lovin', but you have like 15 like hookup apps that, do you pay anything to be on Tinder, Funkhauser?
No, I did once.
But like essentially
But
you can get
yeah.
where you're going for free with all these things, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So you have like an abundance of free apps that could help you get a little sweet lovin'. So only after you strike out numerous times would you go down the street to the brothel. So I could understand how Tinder and hookup apps and all this sort of stuff is killing that business. In fact, I think it's so tough for brothel owners now, Funkhauser, that 3 6 Mafia just wrote a new song.
Uh-oh.
It's hard out here for a brothel owner due to the overabundance of hookup apps with all the ways to get a little lovin' on your phone. Who's actually going to pay for it? They're working on it.
Wow.
They're
Quite a
workshopping
song
the chorus.
there.
It's hard out here for a brothel owner. Go on.
Got the Dolphins. That's all you need.
Yeah.
Justin Bieber turns 23.
Yeah. Pretty young for a person. Pretty old to still be a D-bag. I think that's 46 in D-bag years. What else?
What's up, man? I'm Aaron Carter.
Oh, there's... someone in Canada found $100,000 hidden in a TV about to be recycled.
No kidding. Wow. About to be recycled. That means like $100,000. I mean, Canadian dollars, yes, but $100,000 nevertheless was about to be recycled, like put into a landfill, crunched down. Like that would have been like $100,000 cash destroyed. And they found it. Good for them. So, let's see. Counting Howie Mandel, that's 2 Canadians who undeservedly found money in television. Go on.
Oh, I see what you did there. Wow.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
Too. That's a joke there.
Yeah. Well, really, I think humor, I've been told by actual humorists, works in the law of threes. That's more of an observation.
Oh, okay.
I don't think that. That's one of those things where it's like, it's funny because a comedy writer once listened to my show, and he was just like, that's clever. That's a clever observation. Clever is different from funny. Funny is better. Funny is money, but a clever observation is something you need before you get to the funny. There's a science of comedy, and we're not just to be crystal freaking clear, we're not trying to be funny. We're just trying to have a little bit of fun around here. But I remember once a comedian went okay, so what you need is a few observations, and then you hit him with a funny. I'm like, once you start getting into the science of how this all works, he's like, well, comedy works in threes. So what you need is sort of like 2 observations and then something that's funny. 2 clever observations and then a punchline that makes people laugh. I'm like, wow, that's a lot of math for a laugh. I was never good at math, so I'm just going to leave that one alone and let Funkhauser read the news. Go on.
The Insider host Debbie and Louie say...
Go on, pronounce the Greek last name.
Manonopoulos.
There you go. I
did
knew
it.
you.
I did it.
Yeah, you did it. I think you did it.
I get one now. I got one.
Yeah, good for you.
Debbie Matenopoulos and Louis Aguirre say they're sorry the show is being canceled.
Actually, I think it's just Aguirre. I'm not positive, though. The host of The Insider, Debbie Matenopoulos and Louis Aguirre, I think that's how his name is pronounced, say they're sorry the show's being canceled. Right. Well, there you go. And in other news, people you've never heard of are talking about a show you've never watched. Go on.
Fire broke out at Ryan Seacrest's home in Beverly Hills.
Oh, and he'll tell you whether or not everyone is okay right after the break. Oh, we're out of show. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll do this all over again. Thank you so much for coming along on this ride of clever observations that don't actually make it to the funny finish line, according to my buddies in the comedy world. All right. Goodbye.